type of presentation, I could probably use a flak jacket and I've done sometimes for some of the work I do, so a little slightly less glamorous or dangerous probably. But I thought I'd just talk a little bit. I was thinking back to my early days when I was contemplating a career, a real career in history. I remember it was incredibly important for me to sit at a forum like this and hear somebody who she was a preservation planner for the city of Columbia talk about what she did. And that's basically, that one talk became my inspiration and motivated me. So I thought I'd kind of take it from that angle and just talk a little bit about how what I'm doing and how I got here, just as possibly provide some inspiration to somebody else. I am the program manager for the Historic Heritage Program for the state of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation. That is our state parks and forest agency. We manage 450,000 acres of property throughout the state. It's the sixth largest area, state parks system in the area of the country for a small state. It's outstanding. We've got an unbelievable range of natural, cultural, and recreational resources. When we acquired this land for the purpose of conservation with state funds, many times those properties come with lots and lots of other things. Often lots of those are buildings. And in the zeal and the effort to acquire this land before it's unacquirable or developed, oftentimes the planning for some of these built resources are not considered as closely as we have to look at them down the road, because after we've acquired the property, now as a state agency, we're responsible to preserve the cultural resources. So hundreds and hundreds of buildings and landscapes are part of the system. I think we're up to 2,500 as the building count number, but I'm not really sure about that. Many of these, probably more than half are historic, and many of those are historically significant in some way. And yet we, as an agency, with many of these buildings, have no immediate use for those properties, and we consequently don't have the funding to rehabilitate, manage, and maintain those properties. So legislature in 1994 created an innovative program based on one that was established in Maryland that allows the Commonwealth to market some of these properties to outside parties who are interested in rehabilitating, occupying, managing, and maintaining these historic resources in return for a long-term lease. So it's a work-for-lease program. Basically, it allows folks who have those skills to be able to invest that sweat equity towards what would be a project that most of us would run screaming in the opposite direction from, and many people do when they come and see the properties. They need a lot of work, and they need a lot of love and a lot of passion and commitment. So the program's been incredibly successful. We've leveraged over $10 million of outside funds in the preservation of state-owned historic properties. Some of these, about half of them, we've got 17 that are under contract now, or under lease, or about to be under lease. About half of those are residential, but we also have other properties that are commercial. We have some nonprofits, some for-profits. So there's a wide range of different uses, and the public, the legislation requires the public has some kind of access to the property at least twice a year. Most of these properties do more than that, so it really gives us it's a real win-win. For every dollar that the Commonwealth is leveraged, we leverage 7, and that's a pretty good partnership and pretty good director of success. It's become a model also for other states, and some other countries have contacted our agency to borrow the model. Connecticut just unveiled their program last month based on assistance for months and some technical guidance. So my background and how I got there, I wish I could say that my job is a typical, we look at 220 different positions. There's 5 of me and of my exact job in America right now. But getting here, what started as an undergraduate in a film major as an undergraduate, because my big passion was in history, to somehow make other people who were turned off by history learn to love and appreciate it the way I did, the way I do. And so film to me was a great way to do that. I later moved into the museum field because I saw that as another way of the public appreciating history in a non-teaching, non-academic realm. After 5 years in the Smithsonian, I think I realized that I was looking for a way to achieve that same goal in a broader context, and a larger community context. And so I was drawn to historical preservation. I think another reason also preservation was tempting because it had a wide range of different types of jobs. And so the training I pursued in graduate school was a master's degree in the history program with a specific concentration in historic preservation, because I wanted to continue that. Many, as some of you probably know, some preservation programs are focused on architecture, some on planning, some on history, and I wanted to keep that history because that was really core of what I wanted to do. My job is, I'm a planner. That's my job description. We don't have, the state of Massachusetts does not have a historian position within the ranks of job classifications. So as a planner, I'm in an office of 7 right now. Other cultural resource specialists who are dealing with a lot of our other issues at the parks, a lot of our compliance issues. We have an archaeologist, we have 2 archivists, and together we're all working basically to care for these unending stream of important cultural and natural resources. So the way history is a part of my job. Sometimes I have to remember that it is a part of my job, and that basically the motivation is at the end of the day. These are I'm a manager of material history. These buildings are primary documents in the history of the state, and in a lot of cases in some of our buildings, history of the country and beyond. And they are threatened. We have been in this district for 4 years. We've lost a number of buildings just in that time because of time, because of deferred maintenance, unintentional neglect. But when you've got an agency that that cares for parkways, dams, beaches, reservoirs, thousands of acres of land, natural cultural resources, unused historic buildings that are uninhabitable fall pretty low on the list. So the metaphor is that I'm like a cat lady. That's what I sometimes use as a metaphor. And I've got a big basket, and it's full of cats, and the cats all are sick, and they all need medicine, and they need to be taken care of. And the basket is getting heavier and heavier. And part of the problem with preservation is you have to know when you can't take any more cats in the basket, or else you're going to drop them. They're all going to go. So the goal is to send them off one by one, and this program allows us to do that in partnership with other people. So those material documents for our past are preserved. The research I get to do is important because when we decide we've got a historic house, say we've got a farmhouse in Easton, in Borderland State Park, which was a former estate of the Ames family at the national level. There's a little farmhouse. Why is this significant? Why do we want to preserve this? So I'm able to do the research and make a case for the determination of significance for a building such as this, and its importance, and why we should be spending the energy to preserve it, and why someone might be interested in being part of the history, the evolving history of that building. Also, in terms of research and character-defining elements, when we create a lease with our curators, we have a document that outlines all of the work that we'd like to see done. Basically, according to the what are the features that carry the historic integrity and significance of this building, but also a lot of buildings continue to be used. Because even if we had the funds to rehabilitate every dilapidated, unused historic building in the state, if we don't have a use for them, there's really no point in doing it. So we need to make sure that we find ways that the buildings can continue to be part of the working landscape. And landscapes. When I talk about buildings, I'm also talking about the surrounding landscapes, which are also significant. And then the third research element, we get to work with the curators after things get started, once the rehab work is underway. Those public benefit elements, we try to work with them to engage the public, work with park staff and rangers to have programs, classes, tours, other opportunities for the public to be able to see what's going on here and why this partnership is important. And now what was once an area that was only attractive to raccoons and vagrants is now something that's a part of the park that everyone can appreciate and enjoy. And at the end of the day, if we can express to the public why what looks like an ordinary farm building is something that's important to you and the heritage of your town or your state, then we've really accomplished something in terms of educating the public in the field. Of course, beyond that, as I mentioned, there's like with any of the professionals here can probably attest that while you've got the research and the historical stuff that you get in the field for is there's a lot of nuts and bolts behind that. If there is an ivory tower, I was in the opposite last week, halfway into a septic pump chamber, climbing down to see why the pump wasn't working. Because if the system doesn't work, new curators can't get started, and that house is going to get worse and worse. And so that's the kind of stuff, but it's not banal, it's not trite, because it's all part of that eventual goal, because that passion, that end goal is part of the process. So, and just to talk a little bit, just to finish off here on the state of the refrigeration field. Again, I'm in a kind of specific type of job, but I became qualified for this job because I did as many different tried to experience as many different sides of preservation as possible. Because basically I'm a one-person shop, so I have to be the lawyer, the real estate agent, the engineer, the architect, the exterminator, the historian, often the copy editor, the graphic designer, the marketing person, and that I did so many different jobs on different elements of preservation. And as you know, preservation does not have a true professionalized organizational structure, unlike archives, museums, even academic fields. And therefore, we have to kind of glom onto other fields often. Planning, architecture, historic sites, real estate, landscape architecture. It really touches on a whole broad range of different disciplines, depending on your interest or your strength and qualifications. So there are a lot of jobs out there. I think that the market is as strong now as it's ever been, because historic preservation is no longer the realm of no longer isolated to the realm of the good-natured volunteer, the Pamela Cunninghams who wrote letters to get the public to preserve Mount Vernon. It's part of the everyday fabric. I'm looking out the window at the back there right now, and I see that's historic preservation at work. This beautiful city you see, the reason people come to Boston, the reason people want to live in places like this. I'm biased, but I think historic preservation is the key to that as a part of planning and as a part of basically the general mindset of folks in terms of what they're looking for with standard of living. So I do a tiny little piece of that, but again, there's a whole wide range of different career options, and I'll be available afterwards to be able to talk to anyone if anyone's interested in learning about other opportunities in the state of Massachusetts. And thank you for your attention.